Hello, my name is Patrick. I'm 43 years old. I reside in Peterborough, Ontario. I'm a musician, performance artist, nutritionist, and early reader children's author. I've been navigating adrenomyeloneuropathy, or AMN, though my journey began with a diagnosis of Addison's disease at the age of 16. Before then, I was noticeably unwell, underweight, fatigued, and exhibiting hyperpigmentation. I had very little energy and constantly felt unwell. My parents assumed I was just a lazy teenager when I told them I was too tired to help with tasks. One evening, I was really sick with the flu, unable to keep anything down. I knew something was wrong, so I told my parents that I needed to go to the hospital. Then I was sent home. Later that night, in the early morning hours, I insisted that we return to the hospital immediately. This time they took blood tests. Blood tests revealed that my sodium levels were extremely low, dangerously close to triggering seizures or a coma. Doctors suspected Addison's disease, ran the necessary tests, and confirmed the diagnosis. I was told that I would need to take hydrocortisone and Florinef for the rest of my life. No further testing was done, and I was sent on my way. Throughout my early life, I did my best to manage the condition. Remarkably, despite everything, I've never experienced an adrenal crisis since my diagnosis, and I'm now 43. So the first signs of AMN. In my late teens, I began experiencing bladder and bowel urgency. I downplayed the symptoms, not realizing they could be even significant. Over the next few years, these symptoms progressed as new ones emerged. I noticed occasional muscle spasms. My foot would twitch if I was resting on a coffee table, or if I was running, sometimes my leg would give out on me. At age 23, I felt as though my health deteriorated overnight. I was in so much pain, walking was difficult, my legs were very spastic. So despite desperate for answers, I went to the emergency room. I was sent home, just like with the Addison's disease at 16. I knew something was wrong. It took me going back 5 times in 7 days before they finally took me seriously. I was then transferred to Toronto Western Hospital for further evaluation. At Toronto Western Hospital, I underwent an extensive series of tests. Basic neurological signs were present, the sustained clonus and a positive Babinski reflex, which are often indicative of nerve damage. The medical team thought, they should test for very long-chain fatty acids. The test came back. It was elevated, so they thought it was potentially AMN. They ordered a genetic test, and I was discharged to wait for the results. When the phone call finally came a month later, the words were simple but life-altering. Your genetic test confirms you have AMN, and that was it. No further guidance, no plan, no next steps. I, however, recently started to see a new neurologist. He did explain something that changed my perspective a little bit on my own condition, which was very, very helpful. So I know that AMN and ALD can present in many different phenotypes, meaning that no two cases look exactly the same, which is frustrating and complicated. He showed me an MRI from 6 years ago, which my previous doctor had incorrectly reported as normal. So this neurologist pointed out thinning in my thoracic spine, a clear indicator of axonal damage and degeneration, leading to my symptoms. Unfortunately, while this doctor informed me about my spinal MRI, he also overlooked the critical diagnosis of cerebral AMN, just as every other doctor and radiologist had, except for the wonderful Dr. Wolfgang Kohler in Germany. He was the only one able to interpret it correctly. At my first appointment with this new neurologist in Toronto, they performed an EMG, electromyography, and shockingly, the nerves in my legs were completely normal. This means that technically I have adrenal dysfunction and myelopathy, AM, but not neuropathy, the N in the disease. So in other words, I have AM, not AMN. While this discovery provided some clarity, it also emphasized how little most doctors actually understand about this disease. It took over 20 years for a neurologist to explain this distinction to me. How many others are being misdiagnosed, misunderstood, or overlooked? Living with constant discomfort. I like to consider myself an optimist. I am tirelessly working to crack this elusive code that defines this disease. But at times, of course, as I'm sure many can understand, it's incredibly difficult. I generally cannot remember a time when I wasn't experiencing some form of discomfort, whether it's pain, stiffness, or exhaustion from adrenal dysfunction. And I know that my adrenal challenges are likely worsened by my persistent neurological symptoms. Even as I sit here preparing and recording this video, I can't help but wonder, what would it be like to sit and focus on my work without feeling uncomfortable? I can't even imagine. Some days it feels like an unattainable dream. The struggles of living with AMN. I left the hospital obviously feeling confused, alone, frustrated, and scared. I had just been diagnosed with a rare degenerative disease, yet I was given no resources, no support, and no clear path forward. At some point, I was referred to a neurologist who specialized in MS. I felt hopeful, thinking I would finally have some support. However, when I met the doctor, it became painfully obvious that she knew nothing about AMN. She hadn't even taken the time to research it before my appointment. The experience set the tone for years of disappointing and disheartening medical appointments, meeting so-called experts who knew little about AMN and had nothing to offer aside from pharmaceuticals to manage symptoms. Taking control. So a holistic approach to AMN. By age 25, I had enough. I realized that I had two choices. Give up, resign myself to this disease, and let it take its course, or take control of my own health and search for alternate ways to manage my symptoms. I chose the second path. Through research and experimentation, I found that simple interventions like even magnesium helped to reduce muscle stiffness and spasms, especially at night when my hypertonia was at its worst. However, in the beginning, my approach was inconsistent. I wasn't as committed to my health as I am now, partly due to my younger age and partly because of many of life's distractions. As time went on, my symptoms worsened and my mobility declined. 7 years ago, I was not taking care of myself properly, unfortunately, and my health took another sudden turn for the worse. A wake-up call. I remember going out for lunch with a friend who was visibly concerned about my appearance. At that time, I thought a visit to the chiropractor might help, as it often does, but when I arrived at my appointment, my chiropractor took one look at me and strongly urged me to go to the hospital immediately. This time I was admitted on my first visit, where I remained for 5 weeks undergoing intensive physiotherapy. Yet when I was discharged, I was still given no real explanation for what had happened. The vague answer I received was that it was simply an exacerbation of the condition. That was the moment I knew I had to double down on my health. Where I am now. Over the years, I've explored countless alternative therapies, nutritional strategies, and functional medicine approaches to slow disease progression and improve my quality of life. I've made it my mission to uncover evidence-based strategies that support AMN, reduce symptoms, and optimize my overall well-being. I've also dedicated myself to helping others navigate complex health conditions using both my personal experience and my expertise as a nutritionist. Despite these challenges, I refuse to accept that there is nothing I can do. Through determination, research, and a willingness to try new approaches, I am proof that we are not powerless on our own health journeys, and my journey is far from over. Living with AMN has been a long, frustrating, and at times terrifying journey. The lack of medical knowledge, the feeling of being dismissed countless times, and the uncertainty of what lies ahead have all been difficult burdens to bear. However, through persistent self-advocacy and a commitment to a holistic health, I have continued to push forward. I hope that by sharing my story, I can help others facing similar struggles find hope, knowledge, and even empowerment. The pursuit of treatment, research, experimentation, and hope. Over the years, I've stumbled upon numerous studies, some small-scale, targeting AMN or ALD in humans, while others were conducted solely on mice or AMN, ALD fibroblasts. Many of the studies I encountered weren't specific to this disease, but focused on other neurological conditions with overlapping symptoms. I often believe that if a treatment worked for these conditions, it could be worth exploring for AMN as well. Whenever I discovered a promising study, I would immediately seek out ways to obtain the treatment involved, whether it was a supplement, a compound, or a pharmaceutical. Some experiments with promising treatments. Some of the research led me to trial several interventions, including taurodeoxycholic acid, or TUDCA, high-dose biotin, the high-dose antioxidant protocol, which includes alpha-lipoic acid, or ALA, vitamin E, and N-acetylcysteine, or NAC. I will admit I've often jumped from one promising study to another, driven by the urgency for relief and results. There were times I didn't stick with the protocols long enough, but either because new research contradicted previous findings or because the effects were uncertain. However, in the past 2 years, my approach has become more focused and systematic. I've deepened my research, refined my understanding of the disease process, which is really complicated, and perhaps most importantly, begun connecting with others around the world who are also navigating AMN and its more severe childhood form ALD. Through this, I've developed a comprehensive protocol based on mouse studies, ALD fibroblast research, studies on disease with similar pathology. Unfortunately, large-scale human trials on AMN-ALD are unlikely due to the rarity of the condition. However, based on existing research and my understanding of disease mechanisms, I have more confidence in this protocol than anything else I've ever encountered. Becoming my own human lab rat. From the moment of my diagnosis, I became a self-induced human lab rat. I have no reservations about continuing this journey, not just for my own relief, but to pave the way for greater medical recognition of this rare disease, better treatment strategies for others suffering from AMN-ALD, and providing hope to children diagnosed with this devastating condition. The following are the core components of my protocol that I've developed. It integrates a multi-targeted approach using nervonic acid, peptides, and antioxidants in hopes to support nerve repair, reduce inflammation, and slow disease progression. Nervonic acid, it's a critical component for myelin repair. Nervonic acid is a vital fatty acid found in nerve cell and membranes, essential for myelin repair and maintenance. Research suggests it may play several key roles in AMN and ALD. It can help to restore myelin, potentially reduce very long-chain fatty acids. Some studies have shown that it can help reduce the toxic buildup of them, which is obviously a primary driver of AMN and ALD. It can promote nerve healing, exhibits neuroprotective effects, potentially slowing disease progression. Next component is peptide therapy, Cerlitin and Ventfort. Peptides are cell signaling molecules that instruct the body to repair and regenerate damaged tissues. Cerlitin targets the central nervous system, which can improve nerve function, reduce neuroinflammation, and promote brain repair. The next one is Ventfort, which is a vascular peptide. It can enhance circulation and oxygen delivery, ensuring that nutrients and antioxidants reach damaged nerves more effectively. Then there's a targeted antioxidant protocol within this protocol for nerve protection. Oxidative stress is a major driver of nerve damage in AMN and ALD. These antioxidants can work together to reduce inflammation, support the mitochondria, and protect nerve health. There's ALA, alpha-lipoic acid, enhances mitochondrial function, reduces nerve damage, and boosts energy production. Vitamin E, which protects nerve cell membranes from oxidative stress. And then NAC, N-acetylcysteine. It boosts glutathione, which is the body's most powerful antioxidant, aiding detoxification and nerve repair. The next very exciting component of this protocol is called exosome therapy. It's one of the most exciting breakthroughs in regenerative medicine in a long time. The FDA has recently approved it, and it's also available in Canada. Exosomes are tiny messenger particles released by stem cells carrying healing instructions to damaged tissues, so they can reduce inflammation, protect neurons, and promote nerve regeneration. It's very exciting because it's actually thought to be as effective as stem cell therapy, but with fewer risks and no invasive procedures. The potential benefit for AMN and ALD, it could improve mobility, reduce pain, and enhance nerve function. The drawbacks, though, it's very expensive. It's making it much less difficult to access despite its remarkable potential. A new addition that I've recently introduced is low-dose naltrexone, or LDN. Despite my skepticism toward allopathic medicine, I have realized that the best approach is a hybrid one, integrating both natural and pharmaceutical options when they show promise. After careful research, consultation with my doctor, and reviewing multiple studies, I've decided to give it a try and add it to my protocol. It can potentially, what it does is boosts endorphins, temporarily blocks opioid receptors, and promoting the body to increase natural endorphin production. Can aid in pain relief, immune function, and also nerve protection. It can regulate the immune system, calms overactive immune responses while enhancing anti-inflammatory pathways. It can reduce neuroinflammation, lowers harmful inflammatory chemicals, contributing to nerve degeneration. Also can support brain and nerve repair. It encourages nerve regeneration, making it very promising for neurodegenerative conditions. So a well-rounded approach to healing. This is what I'm looking at here. So this protocol blends natural regeneration, nervonic acid, peptides, and exosomes, antioxidant protection, ALA, vitamin C, and NAC, LDN for immune regulation, reducing neuroinflammation, and supporting myelin repair. So it's a holistic and pharmaceutical synergy combining the best of both worlds. While no single treatment is a cure, this multifaceted approach offers the best chance at slowing disease progression, reducing symptoms, and potentially even repairing nerve damage. I've decided to make this my personal mission, advocacy and self-discovery. Well, here's an update of where I am now. Through AI-assisted MRI analysis, I recently discovered that I developed a non-cancerous brain tumor and brain lesions 6 years ago, a fact never disclosed to me by my doctors. Seeking outside expertise, I contacted Dr. Wolfgang Kohler in Germany, who confirmed I do indeed have cerebral AMM. While my lesions are currently arrested, he warned they could become inflammatory at any time, at which point I would need an urgent stem cell transplant. He was intrigued, though, by my use of nervonic acid and asked me to keep him updated. So this marks a small but significant step forward in bringing patient-driven research with medical science, and the fight continues. Some of the challenges that I faced, as I've shared, navigating the medical system with a rare, poorly understood, and highly complex disease has been one of the greatest challenges of my life. I often think about those who are more passive in their care, trusting their doctors completely. If I, someone who's aggressive in my self-advocacy, am continuously dismissed and left without adequate support, I can only imagine how many people suffer needlessly due to medical negligence or lack of knowledge. One of the biggest obstacles has been the lack of consistent information from my doctors. It's been rare to find a healthcare professional who truly understands AMN, let alone someone who takes the time to listen and learn. The complexities of AMN. It's a constant balancing act. One of the most difficult aspects of managing this disease is its sheer complexity. Many of my symptoms can have multiple potential causes, often overlapping, making it nearly impossible to pinpoint the exact issue. A major challenge lies in the interaction between my endocrine and nervous systems. So since I supplement exogenous adrenal hormones, so I take hydrocortisone and Fluranoff, I have to carefully balance my doses. Too much or too little can cause strikingly similar symptoms. To explain what this feels like, I often use this analogy. So imagine conducting an orchestra. So it's an orchestra of chaos. Managing this disease is like trying to conduct an orchestra, but instead of one symphony, two completely different compositions are being played simultaneously. One representing my endocrine system, and the other representing my nervous system. So the instruments within this orchestra, the woodwinds would be the hormones, cortisol, aldosterone, and the strings would be neurotransmitters, so nerve signals and muscle control. Percussion would be metabolic processes, cellular energy, inflammation, detoxification, things like that. The challenge, the conductor, me, is blindfolded. I can't see which section is out of tune. I can only rely on how it sounds, which are my symptoms. But because the two symphonies overlap, I can't tell whether the discord is coming from the violins, the nervous system, or the flutes, the hormones. The sheet music also keeps changing. My body needs, of course, fluctuate daily and even moment by moment, meaning what worked yesterday or an hour ago might not work today. Some instruments sound the same, whether they're too loud or too quiet. Just like too much or too little cortisol can cause identical symptoms. An overactive or underactive nervous system can mimic endocrine dysfunction as well. And my baton is also delayed. By the time I make an adjustment, the orchestra has already moved on to the next movement. So I'm always reacting, never fully in control. The result? I'm constantly trying to balance two intricate systems that affect each other unpredictably. It's a relentless and exhausting process. The challenges of accessibility. Another daily struggle is the lack of accessibility in our country. Almost everywhere I go, I see obvious violations of accessibility laws. I understand that some older buildings may not be legally required to make modifications unless they undergo renovations. And in some cases, physical barriers like narrow staircases can make accessibility challenges impossible, which I completely understand. However, many infractions do not fall under these conditions. Business owners simply fail to prioritize accessibility, and it happens every single day. Currently, I'm actually in the process of mediation with the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario over a business in Niagara Falls that had countless blatant accessibility violations. These issues could have been addressed, and I will continue to fight for equal access for all. What would help improve the lives of those with rare diseases? That's a great question. Medical education and patient-centered care, for one. One of the most critical changes needed is better education for healthcare professionals. Doctors must understand that when treating someone with a rare disease, that the patients often know much more than they do. So they need to, give them credit that they know what they're talking about. They need to listen and trust their patients. They have to acknowledge that there are knowledge gaps and be willing to learn from new research and do research on the rare condition. They should also respect the experiences of those living with these conditions rather than actually just dismissing them. Expanding research and treatment accessibility. That's something that's extremely important. More funding for rare disease research is essential. The medical community must recognize that even small studies in mice or fibroblasts can offer valuable insights. Treatments that show promise should be made accessible to patients sooner, rather than waiting for large-scale trials that may never happen. Another important thing I'd like to see is building a supportive community. Through my own research and by connecting with others around the world, I am absolutely determined to ease the suffering of others, prolong the lives of others, and potentially even save some lives. If the medical system fails us, we must find ways to support each other. There's really no other way. We need to stick together in this. So despite the challenges, frustrations, and setbacks, I refuse to give up. I'm completely committed to this. I'm committed to advocating for myself and for others, pushing the boundaries of research, sharing my knowledge and solutions whenever I can, spreading this research and information to everyone. Because those of us living with rare diseases deserve better. And I'm proud to be rare. Thank you very much.